Deze podcast is powered by ACC ICT, de nummer 1 Kubernetes specialist van Nederland.
Welkom bij een nieuwe aflevering van de Nederlandse Kubernetes Podcast. De podcast over Kubernetes voor iedereen. Ik ben Ronald Kers en ik zit zoals altijd met...
Hallo Ronald.
Hallo Jan. Hoe gaat het?
Ja, ik ben Jan Stomphorst van ACC ICT.
Voor de mensen die dat nog niet wisten, als we bij deze aflevering beginnen.
Gaat hartstikke goed. Mooie dag weer. Heel veel leuke podcasts aan het opnemen. En wij hebben niet uniek, maar wel een returning guest.
Ja, dat klopt inderdaad, ja. I will switch to English now, but now I'm going to butcher his name. If I pronounce it in the English way, but I will try Joris Komlinko.
Exactly.
Okay, nice. And Saïd, Adabel. How are you guys doing?
Good. Yeah, we just did a talk.
Nice. But before we get into that, Joris, can you please introduce yourself to our English listeners?
At Ortec Finance, I'm a technologist responsible for new to the company technology. And as a side role or main role, depends how you look at it, I'm responsible for the company's cloud native transformation.
Okay. And how did you get started in the IT? What was your interest?
I first started mechanical engineering, and I learned that I wouldn't like to go to dredging or platforms. IT is you can engineer still without getting your hands dirty, and that fitted way better. So I switched to studies, and I started working during my studies, actually, for Ortec Finance in a Scrum team.
Cool. Okay, nice. Saïd?
Cool. Yeah, I'm Zeid, Adabel, and I've been working for Ortec Finance for 4 years now as a cloud engineer. Started in the beginning of the cloud transformation together with Joris. So we've done a lot of things together. In the company, I'm a bit more of what Joris calls me, a vlieg van de kip.
Flying goalie.
Goalie is a chicken, right? Yeah. So I do a lot of things here and there. Also started as a full stack engineer for a product. Our first product that went to the cloud, and then moved on to helping other products become cloud native, enabling our engineers to embrace the DevOps nature of working.
Okay. And what's your background? How did you get started in the IT?
A good question. I had no clue what to do 4 years ago. 8 years ago, before my studies. So IT was cool at the time, and turns out I was good at it. So that's how it started. I didn't particularly like programming actually, but I was okay at it. And cloud engineering was a really great fit in that sense, because you don't program that much. It's more of a bit of opsing as well, like clicking stuff together, architecting things, and that's how I got into this.
Okay. Oh, nice. Well, Joris, we already had you once in the podcast, it's just a little bit over a year ago at the Red Hat Connect Summit. You talked about the sustainability aspect of your company and how you have built that very beautiful solution workloads over Europe, where the energy is greener.
That was in Dutch, by the way, for our English listeners. But it is a great podcast to listen.
We from Toilet Duck advise Toilet Duck.
Of course.
No, just... So Joris, how is it going this past year?
It's going excellent. Actually, the topic we discussed last time, one of my colleagues, Zeid, was invited to present that at the Red Hat Summit in Denver, Colorado. So if you look that up, you will see awesome YouTube videos explaining the concept of following the sun. Distribute or dispatch your workload at locations where energy is green. Yeah, and furthermore, we in our cloud native journey, we started small 4 years ago, gradually increased the stakes. Yeah, we're now at the tipping point that most of the organization is working with our cloud native platform. And that made us, me and Zeid, we're first responsible for the whole transformation of a single product. And then gradually other entities in the organization took some responsibilities, and that left us with the responsibility to equip teams to run, to build and run your application in a container platform. So that gave us a bit of focus last year.
So we're here at the HGS event, and you also had a talk, and I'll try to pronounce it in full. Gamifying Cloud Native Transformation, Ortec Finance Fire Drill Framework for Building Confidence in Cloud Deployments. So can you give our listeners an impression of what you guys talked about?
When we have different product lines and they're all going to a cloud native platform one by one, so to say, and the ceremony of starting to host your product with real people, real money, and real clients at the first time, then you have a lot of prerequisites, right, when you start that. So basically, we say your application needs to be ready. We expect application to be modernized first. We don't lift and shift. The platform needs to be ready. And we started with an MVP platform, and along the way, the platform expanded, catering for message queue systems or additional ISO certifications and so on. And the last dimension, so next to application readiness, platform readiness, is the team readiness. And we found that training teams, by providing them knowledge and skills, is not sufficient for them to be confident in running SRE responsibilities. So there was a clear gap also in literature. A lot of literature is about how to transform and how to do SRE. But the moment you go from a transformed product to SRE, you need a lot of confidence. You don't have the mileage of running incident management with your software engineering team, probably, before you do that for the first time. And that was our talk about. Like, we think we can fill that gap by having fire drills.
But that's a great concept. You're saying we've got everything in place, we've got a lot of documentation, but the team needs practice to make things perfect. and need practice to get confident in that environment.
Yeah, and as more specifically, the product owner needs to be confident, right? So he represents the team. He has a lot of stakeholders. The product owner needs to be confident that the teams are able to run these new responsibilities. And we had a cloud native journey that was triggered from a developer's perspective. So I see with other companies, sometimes more operation people start saying, okay, we need to dish virtualization, we need to start containers. In our case, but the other way around. But I think, nevertheless, fire drills is an interesting concept, not only for software teams or stream-reliant teams or product teams, whatever you call them, but also for platform teams. It's also a cloud-native container platform is also new tech. Thus, the platform team has sufficient mileage to cater for internal services.
And how does such fire drill, just in your talk you said gamification, how does it work?
How does it work?
You don't pick up a controller and just playing a game and fix the problem.
I wish it was that easy. No, it all starts with having a couple of scenarios, right? You want to simulate sort of an environment where the engineers, they have their production, they have what they need to monitor it and whatnot. Mm-hmm. You want to create that immersion so this is real. What we do, we usually just book a week with engineers, have a game moderator moderates this entire game. We do set it up like
Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, it could be, yeah. Especially when you have everyone in the office and the game moderator there is in the corner,
Dungeon master.
Exactly, the dungeon master. Suddenly everything is on fire. He is lurking.
Throw the dice.
Exactly, yeah. No, so the engineers notice this, right? They have their monitoring, they have their alerts, they detect that there is an incident, and they have to just respond as if it was their real production environment. Mm-hmm. Call up the clients, say that there's an outage or a degradation, so on and so forth. It's just how an engineer would do it in real life. They would go ahead and identify the scenario, right? What's the root cause? And try to resolve it. And the game moderator sort of, orchestrates this to make sure that everyone's involved, everyone's doing what they can. And also they try to emulate the external factors. So if they escalate, for example, if the engineer decides to the platform is a problem, or it's the platform team's problem. These are things you just need to know. Who do you escalate to? Right? If Azure goes down, or like Azure region goes down, well, the platform or the engineering team needs to know who to talk to get that resolved. In the end, where do you file the help desk ticket? And these are the sort of things that we assess in the playground.
Awesome. And how do you start then with that drill or a game? Because you need a scenario.
You need a scenario, yeah.
Yeah, but where do you
Set of scenarios.
A whole set. Yeah.
So the talk was about the key success factors, right? So every company can do this, and which scenarios you play or plan to play, of course, the players don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So we set up a game console. So next to the game moderators, there's this independent group. In our case, often someone from security office is involved, because we don't only assess technology, right? We also assess Log4j kind of scenarios or GDPR leakage. The whole spectrum is done. Also, we rely more and more on managed components internally, internal servers, but also vendors like GitHub, Azure. We can emulate outages, or we can emulate rate limits on certain public registries. It's really real world. And the console is kind of independent in, do we have a complete set? Console's also involved. So prior to these drills, we asked the product owner, okay, what's your ambition? How high is the bar we need to assess? We only assess. And that's what we do on the product owner's ambition. And we make it very explicit. So you have the constants of RPO and RTO, recovery point objective and recovery time objective. And in our framework, it turned out that not every incident is the same, right? And you have a different insurance policy against certain incidents. And that's very specific for your enterprise. So you have things that happen frequently, like a VM patch, for instance. You want zero downtime in these events. You have also incidents that happen remotely or occasionally. And you have different insurance policies as a team in place for those events. So people are tempted to only look blind to, okay, what if all my data centers are down, or one of them is down, and so that's kind of a failover. That's where it gets costly pretty fast. If you work in a cloud, having a standby, both Azure or AWS implementation, it's extremely costly.
But it's also best practice to have those scenarios in place for your organization.
For business continuity, yes. So one of the takeaways or side effects was we were doing this with platform teams, and then security was always involved. And it was like, okay, we require now every product to make explicit and what's their RTO and RPO for these types of incidents.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Every company should do that. RTO, RPO.
Yeah, every company,
every product.
If you have a so team topologies is a book we got some inspiration from, of course. And if you have an X as a service interaction with someone else, whether it's your client or it's a platform towards their engineering teams, or it's a microservice A to microservice B, you have a relationship with each other. If one doesn't work, the whole system doesn't work. And that's, you need to make that explicit with each other to make a kind of a contract. Or team topology talks about team API. So how do teams interact with each other? And this type of agreements would include what can we expect from each other. And that's what we assess.
Kost het beheer van Kubernetes je veel tijd en expertise? Maak kennis met ACC ICT. Zij ontzorgen je volledig met managed Kubernetes diensten op elke cloud. Gecertificeerde specialisten zorgen voor compleet beheer, 24/7 support en optimale beveiliging. Jij kunt je focussen op je core business, terwijl je Kubernetes-omgeving in betrouwbare handen is. Manage Kubernetes van ACC ICT. Jouw zorg, onze expertise. Bezoek accict.com.
And we don't grade, so that's a very important,
Very important
key factor, because grading goes at the expense of a safe environment. So, there are many key factors, but having a safe gaming environment, that means that everything that happens if you use a Slack channel for simulating, stays confidential within the players and the game moderators.
That's right.
You only get positive feedback. You give positive feedback after a gaming session.
It's similar to a game. We try to have a feedback loop, sort of, to always positively reinforce the players, but also negatively. Like there's some try to not do that. Try focus on this and that instead of
During the game.
What you want during a game is to also quickly have closure, like have a positive reinforce or like a feedback, right? So the game lasts a couple of days, right? And this feedback loop is daily in a sense. So every day we fire maybe 2 to 3 scenarios, 2, 3 incidents. And the game moderator's responsibility is sort of to record these, to assess the players, what they do, and just note that down and try to positively reinforce that, or move the interaction of what the players are doing throughout the game. Yeah, and then after the games, we just gather together in a retrospective or something like that and talk about it, open up a bit. Still confidential, still just within the players and the game moderators, just that group. And at that point, you're also pretty close together. You've done these incidents together, you've talked a lot, and people really open up then, of how they felt during this. If they were stressed or if there was some friction within the team, also, you know a lot about that, but when I do it, etc., that can happen. And then it's a really good moment to open up about that.
Yeah, there's also a big responsibility from the game master to manage all those things. It's not only about the players, but you also there's the person who has to keep that and who checks what everybody is doing. You can to follow the scenario is one thing, but you also have to manage those people in those sides group exactly to have like a safe place for them to give feedback and receive feedback during the game. It sounds really fun to think about all of those scenarios. To make it like complex scenario in a scenario, you can go deeper,
No inception.
We all have experience with you think you fixed it, but now the other part falls down, and why is there a relationship between those two? Why you haven't thought about, so it's the real
There's always a lot of excitement with teams, like they're a bit tense starting these drills.
Yeah.
But afterwards, always like, we did it 6 times, one product even twice. They gained more confidence, definitely, every time we did it. But also, people ask, can I be a game moderator now?
Yeah, of course. I know. I can relate to that because, you want to think about the scenario.
Yeah, because it's not only technologies. The fun scenarios is where you
of course,
acts like few weeks before already.
Yeah, we sometimes plant like a secret in a pull request or something.
See if they test it, Yeah. It almost feels like an escape room in a certain way,
It does.
So maybe that's the next part, But in a room where you can't get out until you fixed it.
Yeah, but in an escape room, no one tells you how to improve your escape room skills to solve it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's very interesting because, like the first few times we did this, it was very focused on is the observability stack sufficient? But at some point, we noticed as game moderators, okay, we're not only assessing these things on the surface anymore, we're also assessing behavior.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting because, for instance, if you have a container platform managed by a platform team and an operator is not working, sometimes the person at your coffee machine is now your supplier not delivering. So we want to see some behavior with your fists on the table, like, this is unacceptable. I have my clients here. And that's new behaviors from many engineering groups or teams. And we also inject confidence in teams to act as a client themselves to the internal services. And that's really interesting development. It's also the spectrum is so big.
Yeah, and not learning the trick, what's behind the trick. I can remember when I was in an escape room, for example, there was a mastermind task. The colors in the right, and if the door would open, and somebody knew the trick to find the answer very quickly within literal seconds. But if you do that in a team, maybe someone else want to know that trick, what's behind that trick, and there's not always time in that moment because you want to do this and the customer is doing this, also. But if you can assess that at a later point in your team, how did you do that? Can you learn me that trick? So the next time you're not around and we're doing this game again or in another scenario, I can do that and I can pass on that knowledge also to the new guys. So it's always good. Of talking about new guys, I think it's also a good way to incorporate new people into the team and getting to know each other and really have the DNA spread throughout the company how you solve things.
Yeah, so for that we have a different game also, or we're developing different game plan, because fire drills, if you're simulating on-call duties, it's always one or two team members that are involved. You're not involving the whole team during an incident. That's not efficient and not effective. But learning from each other, we are currently building a capture the flag challenges that within your team you make. And that's also, but that's not what we talked about today. But that's what we call SRE boot camps. So we have the luxury that real incidents happen too few to gain your mileage, or like a pilot, you have to make flying hours. So for that, we have annual SRE boot camps with the teams as part of the program also. Yeah.
Nice, really nice.
And it's compulsory now. If you onboard your product for the first time in the cloud native platform, it's compulsory to do a fire drill. It's also requested upon impactful changes in your product or team. So if you have a big refactoring done, or suddenly you go from in-office hour support to out-of-office hour support, or your team composition changes, then there's this organization in the chapter organization in our company that have the mandate to require new fire drills. So it became a very powerful tool to assure quality.
I think it's a great takeaway for a lot of companies to implement this kind of thing. But
I want gaming.
Engineers, right?
It's a fun way to learn it. Yeah, it's a fun way to learn the things from each other and the dynamic in the group.
Your grocery list is not that big. Like, it helps if you have a very declared operation, because then you can mirror your production environment, right? So you just branch off some GitOps repo and you have another cluster alike. And yeah, you need a Slack channel. You need some informal agreements with each other and
time.
And time.
That's the biggest thing.
Yes and no, because if we say game days, it's just a normal sprint. Like,
you never know.
Happen during normal sprints, and not during dedicated days.
That's how you explain it to the management.
Yeah. No, I actually didn't took that much effort to explain. This is a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, anything to add, Jan?
No, I think it's awesome.
Okay. Well, then it's time for our final question, and I'll give you the honors this time.
We've got a final question, and yours knows it already. But how do you see the future? And I'm pulling it really broad this time, because normally it's the future of Kubernetes.
It's tech related.
It's tech less tech, but still fun. But how do you see the future of this
development?
This development, like technology, like across the board.
Yeah, technology. You can.
Oh, cool.
Or just this gamification.
This gamification. Yeah, it's a very broad question. Yeah. I see it more like technology should just be. Technology is everywhere, right? And it should be the future of tech. I dream a lot, right? And imagine if you walk into a building and like the elevators don't work good, right? And you just know it's a coding problem. Imagine if it was open source and I could just make a pull request to an elevator or anything. That's sort of how I see technology going at some point, where everything is open source, like tax stuff, for example, or anything. Like if you see a website that kind of has a bug or something, and it's a government place or whatever organization, you can just contribute and fix society.
Listen, that's
nice.
Yeah.
Maybe 50 years, maybe 100, who knows? Maybe not my lifetime.
So you see a problem in open source, they think, I can contribute to that, and I will...
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's how Kubernetes is, right? Our operations, if it has a bug, you can just fix it.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you. And hopefully the entire world looks like that. I mean, I'm annoyed my washing machine beeps sometimes.
If it was open source, you were beeping noise.
Exactly, yeah.
Late at night.
They didn't expose the API, so I can't. But
or to give it another sound,
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Joris?
Maybe along that line, on maybe shorter term, regarding open sourcing, I think these patterns we found are very powerful and useful for others. And we're not in the business of fire drills or teaching people cloud native. That's not our core business. So we will try to open source that. There's this open practice library. So a lot of concepts for organizations to do an effective cloud native journey are persisted there. So we will contribute the pattern of having fire drills there and have a GitHub also with some example scenarios maybe, but we found GitHub templates very powerful to orchestrate and persist fire drills. And that's what we can easily open source.
Cool. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. So guys, thanks again for joining us here at the podcast. And I'm very eager to see where we talk about next year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Deze podcast is een initiatief van ACC ICT en wij zijn te beluisteren op onze website k8spodcast.nl via Spotify, Apple en alle andere favoriete podcastproviders.